was nobody else here. I think I went wrong
I
day.
hear you, but you're muffled. Herb, you hear him all right? You hear Joan okay?
Joan's
There
not
you
here
go.
yet.
We see you. See you
Joan's
waving.
here. She's just not
Yep.
here.
I think I see her pulling
Yet.
in.
Can hear everybody, particularly Joan. She's got a lot of the program. Joan, can we hear you? Can you hear us?
Joan's not arrived yet.
Oh, she has.
Okay.
Walking in the door now, actually.
Well, as soon as she gets organized, we'll start.
There's Joan. Hello, Joan. Wave.
Everybody.
We're gonna have a hearing problem. Herb.
Pardon me?
We're going to have a hearing problem.
Are we going to have a hearing problem?
I think so.
Closer.
I took my earplugs off.
Yeah, and I just went down to the audiologist today and he tuned on my hearing system, so I should be okay.
Yeah, I'm okay too, but I think Joan has got to get a little closer to the microphone.
Well, we got the microphone a little closer to her, so.
Well, if the mountain won't come to Mohammed, Mohammed will come to the mountain,
Right.
or something like that. There's a wise saying there somewhere. Okay, so it's 5 o'clock-ish, maybe a tiny bit afterwards. It's time to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Hazeldell Rural Fire Protection District Board of Directors meeting. I believe we have all 5 of the correct?
Yes.
Yes, you do.
Pam, John, Skip, Joan, and myself. We have this.
Hey, Brian, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
You do have a visitor.
I know he's not a visitor, but I don't see him on the screen, so
That's because the camera's on Joan, the woman of the
just
hour.
wanted to know who was there.
Okay.
How about Scott? Scott there?
He's on it. He's in his office down the hall, but there he is.
Okay.
But
Okay.
Herb, there is another person listening to us and watching us.
That's Trudy Hammond.
Are you going?
Folks, how are you? I'm just tuning in as a member of a couple other committees. I'd like to just stay tuned into all the committees and see how things go, and board of directors, so I can learn a few pointers for my own board of directors.
Oh,
And who is that?
Trudy Hammond. I have an animal rescue safety center here in Oak
Oh,
Ridge.
Trudy, okay. Good.
okay,
Good to
so
hear.
you are our official public attendee. That's good. Thank you for coming or hooking in or however you did this.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, so I have called the meeting to order, and the first item on the agenda is the review or approval of the minutes that Joan sent out on the computer. So we have a copy. We have a copy. You have a copy, or at least you have an opportunity to have a copy of the minutes from the last board of directors meeting. Is there comments, corrections, additions, supplementation to the minutes?
Look good to me.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Okay, I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We approve the minutes of the previous meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Muller, hi.
Aye.
I'm having maybe some difficulty. I could hear Pam and John, but I could not hear Skip or Joan.
We're here. We're
Skip said aye also.
Yes,
Yep.
aye.
We're just going to have a little tiny bit of patience and to make this thing work, and so we can follow some semblance of an appropriate processes. So we're ready to go on to the financial report. Joan?
Okay, here's the accounts payable.
Can't hear you.
Here's the accounts payable. We have 5 checks. So
No, we're not hearing you. We got to get this hearing right.
Hang
Because
on.
Joan's got a lot of stuff to talk about today.
Hang on. Okay, try it now.
Here's the list of the checks that we're paying this month. There's 5 checks. The largest is to the
Wonderful.
city of Oak Ridge. Can
Wonderful.
you hear me now?
Yes.
That was perfect. Thank you, Brian.
And we have the invoices, I think, are next with the checks.
Yeah.
Lane Electric, I didn't receive their bill till this week.
Uh-huh.
So that's why the check didn't get written by the bookkeeper. So
Okay.
any questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you. I couldn't find my file before the meeting. What's the total contract price we have with the city of Oak Ridge? 59 something, is it? No, more than that.
$61,089.
61. Okay, that makes it correct. We're half at this time of the year, so we've got a check in the mail to them for that. That's the $30,000.
Right.
Thank you. That helps me out.
Okay. We didn't actually sign a contract this year. We just looked at last year's and increased it by 3%.
Yep, exactly.
And
And we sat down and talked about that. If you remember.
put it into the budget.
Okay.
That's good. John, I know this is obvious to everybody, but we have collected enough money to write that big of a check.
Actually, I can.
Yes, you can go to that.
check to see if it's up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I made a
I
little,
was impressed with the receipts.
Okay.
yes, so we've done
Go
good.
ahead, Joe.
And we've done good. November, there's 3 deposits. The first deposit is for all of October's receipts, and then they send it to us in early November. And then the county sends 2 more checks, or they don't send checks, but electronic transfers. And
All right, so
and then we know how much we're getting in December already. But if
Okay,
you look at that, last year the big amounts came early. 97,000 came early. This year I think people were a little hesitant to write the check, so they put it off till the last minute. So we are getting the money.
okay.
Yes, we are. I noticed that report that you gave us. That was really helpful, Joan. That's good. We're doing good. That one. Oh, thank you for putting that on the screen, Brian. That helps. Okay.
Yes. And the revenue is slightly less than we budgeted. Is that correct? And I realize we haven't got all the money here.
Right. So this is through. We do need a motion on the accounts payable.
Okay. I will entertain a motion that we pay the bills.
I so moved that
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. We pay the bills. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Hour.
Passes unanimously by the board members present, and we're all present to one degree or another. So actually, it looks like we're doing pretty good, aren't we? We're within about $10,000 of our budget for revenue. That's good. Okay. Moving on to the, and you've got it on the screen, which I appreciate, the where we stand in terms of spending our money and in terms of revenue.
Yeah, that's great. We're getting good at this now.
Okay, and the next one is the balance sheet. Oh, okay, so just two additional things. We don't see that there yet, but I did transfer $118,000, I believe, in December from Banner Bank to LGIP. You don't see that yet. It was a December
Okay.
transaction because we had all the tax revenue. And the second thing, Brian gave me the check. We got the check for the vehicle sale, $1,100. Again, that went in December. So you see that next month.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for the finance report. I don't think we need a motion on that, do we?
No.
No.
Okay, we're ready to move along then to the recognition and public comment. Really, this is your opportunity as the public if you'd like to make a comment.
I appreciate that time. I have no comment to make other than thank you for all you guys do.
Well, that's always pleasant to hear. Thank you. Okay, moving on to old business. The resident address list update. Is Scott doing that?
Well, I had to report on that. He hasn't been involved. I just told him about this the other day. But I did receive feedback from the county, and they sent me the list. They sent me in a list in Excel. They sent the list. There's two parts of it. There's the part who are of people who are live in our district, have addresses, and actually live there. And then the other part is other properties that are owned, but there's no dwelling on them. So we have the list, and now we're waiting. They will put together a map of those residents. So we'll also have a map to relate them to.
What map is it? You know, I was looking for that map, Joan. It used to be posted in the hallway, and it had every house on it. And we could have, with that map and the addresses, we could determine the number of homes that we were protecting in each category that we had, like in Pam's neighborhood, like up in High Prairie, and so forth and so on. What map have you got?
I don't have the map yet.
Oh, you don't? They're sending it to you?
The county is putting it together. They have to create it. And
Oh,
they will give it to us. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like or how we're going to get copies, and we'll work that out later when we get it.
That's going to be a valuable thing, and
Right.
we could use that in a lot of our planning.
And I never saw a map of those residents at the fire station during my time here. So
No, that was before your time. It disappeared somewhere in the file. So, you know who may have the map is LCOG.
Yeah, they have a pretty healthy GIS division that can do maps and do whatever you want to do with the mapping services. So if we need an updated one after we look at the county map, then we can probably reach out to them for that.
who is this?
LCOG, Lane Council of Governments.
Oh.
I have a point of contact.
Okay.
That will do that. Yep.
That would be great. Then we'd have the whole package. I appreciate this effort that Oak Ridge is doing, because it's awfully nice to see that address where you could get to people in an emergency without searching.
Right. Now what we get from the county in the Excel file does not have telephone numbers or emails or anything like that. So if we want to build that, that would be something that we would build. But I did notice the other day, and I was looking at a file I had from the Firewise program. It had those contacts. I had a very small piece of it, and it had those contacts. So I don't know, there might be sharing,
Yep.
you know, ways to share it from other departments.
Yep.
Okay. That's all I
Hey,
have.
Joan, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to skip over the really the nice summary you had on the additional statements for the Hazeldell Rural Fire Districts for 2019 and 20 that you included in, or that is included in the packet, but it is a nice summary of where we are and significant events and that sort of thing. So did you want to run through that real quick, or are we going to just trust to our
Okay.
reading?
That was part of the what I provided to the auditor, in addition to all of the financial statements and our minutes and our agendas and things like that. I provided to the auditor. I finally got that done last week and got that into the auditor. And then they have a series of questions. So because I'm answering the questions, I put it in this form. I thought it would be how, you know, you might like to kind of see that as a what happened last year.
Yeah, I thought it was very both interesting and helpful. All right. We were going to, at this point, we move on to reviewing the Hazeldell action items. John, you want to
Yeah,
walk us
I'll
through that?
start on that. I don't think we have to review each one, but the one that if anyone knows of any item that has been completed, I've updated everything. And but the one that I'm mostly interested in that I think we need to talk about, we've already talked about the address of the sign project, and I'll update that. What we have there is item 2025, and Brian, I understood in our telephone conversation that you were going to contact the emergency director for Lane County, patients.
Right.
Did you have a chance to do that?
I haven't been able to connect with her yet. She's staying on the watch sometimes, so she's a little harder to get a hold of.
Yeah. I did have time to review in pretty detail the website for Lane County, and it's very thorough. However, specificity, that's a big word, concerning where to go, who is going to notify the citizens that they've got to leave, what's the 1, 2, 3, get ready and then go, who is going to tell them that. And I don't like to rely on internet to accomplish that. And what I was going to do was to get all that information pulled together, and I'd have to work with you, Brian, to define some of these holes in the system information that is on the internet, and produce a very simple document that we could transmit to our folks. Because I personally, when we were having problems here, I didn't know where to go myself. I knew I was going to leave. And that's about all you could say for it. You have any thoughts on that, rest of the board? Brian?
Well, I did reach out to the intern who's from U of O, who's going to kind of lead this study.
Yeah.
And I relayed to him my primary initial concerns that I think they need to look at a minimum, and that was notification. How is that going to happen? 2 is the plan
Yeah.
is really focused on wildfires, but in this case, I think we have a couple other events that could happen that would cause an evacuation, which would be the dam, or some sort of a mudslide type situation. And then the last thing is the limited number of exit points out of this area. You know, basically one highway, and if it's in the wintertime, that's about all you got, one way or the other, east or west. So that's kind of our starting point in the conversation. And they intend to include me in the working group that's going to stand up and as they start to develop this thing.
That's good. And the thing I was concerned about, were you going to speak for the surrounding communities like Hazeldell, or you know, the county is responsible for all of this, but you're in the county too, and I think we probably ought to be available so that at least they know we're here. And Westford, that's an entity, a civic entity. So maybe they'll speak for themselves. So
yeah, my thought was to, if not represented, to represent the two communities, just because they're way out here and sometimes not on the forefront of their minds when they're developing plans. So I'll make sure that the communities are not ignored.
I had a thought about this thing that Johns wants to do, and that is that I'm wondering whether it's wise for us to be putting some document out that then the time comes people try to reach for that document and it causes them to get in a harmful position, and we're liable for that, rather than listening to what's going on in the news or what you hear on the internet or get called to your phone about that. I wouldn't want Hazeldell to have some document that's sitting there for 5 years and people look at that and it's not relevant to this current situation. So I really have a concern about that, but nevertheless, we shouldn't ignore this issue. We need to go forward and at least get some answers, ask
Right.
questions.
We'll see how
I think that's a good point, Joan. And the way you could solve that is, as Brian was talking about, finding the areas that need definition, and then get the county through this graduate students information that they're gathering, and have the county issue the document. I think that's the way to do it. But we would proceed to identify the loopholes, what has to be done. So that's a good point. I agree with you. How about the rest of the board? You agree with Joan?
I believe we could meet our responsibility if we had some sort of a document that would refer folks to who they need to contact for reliable current information on the need for evacuation if that's the issue. So that if we provided them access to sources rather than providing them with the information itself, that might be a more useful approach in terms it would be more timely in terms of what's happening in the current environment. But, who do you call? Who do you check when you wake somebody? They use this reverse 911 and somebody calls and say, hey, we're at evacuation level 3. Well, what does that mean? That means you have to call the sheriff, or you have to call the city, or you have to call somebody, rather than providing specific direction on what to do.
That's a good point too. Well, I'll try to collate all of these comments onto the action list, and somehow we'll include that when the U of O Institute of Policy Resources and Engagement Committee comes to talk to Brian, and he could relay that on to them, perhaps. Is that a good way to go about this, Brian?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Okay, we'll do it that way.
All right, thank you, John.
All
All
right.
right, any, the other
I have a
board members?
question for John.
Yeah,
There you go.
On number 23 of your to-do task, how
yeah,
come you left out my road?
23.
How come you left out my road?
Did I do that? Holy moly. I will correct that. La Duke, right?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yes,
All right, thank you, Dan.
And John, that's an update on number 25.
Okay,
I spoke with the rep on other business today from Spectrum, and
Okay.
he said that their introductory deal of free installation and a month of service expires at the end of December. So I just want the board to know that. But in any case, he's standing by. I currently, to hold on to the deal, I currently have an appointment scheduled in January, which is easily canceled or whatever, but otherwise I can't ensure that deal is still in place unless we have an appointment scheduled.
And we did get a letter today.
You did?
I just received it today in the mail. After I saw you, it was in the mail. And it's just, so about 1 free month
Yep.
services.
Brian, do you know if we've, what the progress is with the school and the city in terms of the service they were going to provide with having hotspots scattered around the town?
I do. Matter of fact, they should be boots on the ground here this week to start installing the Apogee transmitters. The new plan, the modified plan is going to be one at City Hall, one in the fire department, one at the WAC, one at the Lutheran Church, one on the, I think it's the junior high school. And that'll give the city pretty good coverage. If they actually presented to the school board yesterday and had a pretty nice map of the coverage area. So that's the current, and then there's going to be a phase 2 once they see how successful this is, and to see if they need to expand further, and that would be another opportunity. If I don't know that the antenna is going to reach enough people on top of the fire station up there to make it worth your while to put an Apogee up there. But if Rita, the superintendent, is behind it, she might very well pay for, I think she's paying for the Lutheran Church service. So she has a grant. So.
Now, would you repeat again what this does, this transmitter?
So if it's like in the case of City Hall, they put a big antenna on the roof, they connect it to the City Hall fiber or the internet connection.
Okay.
And it shares. It's got a firewall and everything, so it's its own virtual connection. So there's no security concerns, but it shares that internet connection. And then the school has the ability to either neck down or widen the bandwidth. Say we didn't want City Hall to have an experience a slowdown, they would neck it down during the times that we need it, and then open it up when we're shut down so they can use more of the internet, have a higher speed. So they have the ability to do that across all the sites. And they actually put another one in. They're also putting one in the school in Westford. So that's the site I forgot.
Okay.
But the goal is to have it done by the time the semester starts in January.
That's great. That's good news for the community, I think.
Yeah.
Is there a way, John, to include this in our alerting system, or or your plan you were working on how we're going to deal with emergencies? Is that a information?
that could be, that's a real asset for the community to have that communication. So we'll see how it works out when you get. Is it possible for us to get the map, a copy of it, Brian? You must have a copy of it, huh?
It's constantly being modified. I'll reach out to the contractor and see if they can send me their briefing, and I'll forward it to the board.
Great.
You know, one of the things, Herb, is we're not taking any action on decisively, I think, is installing this spectrum service. Now, I couldn't get, in the last meeting, I don't think the fire department had a position on that. Brian, would that be helpful to us? But that's, you know, if we don't have a lot of people at the station now, and maybe we just have to forego the economy of early sale and just wait till we really have an identified need for it. What's the view of the board?
Well, I think we've got a long list of opportunities, and this is pretty far down the list for me. The only benefit we've talked about would be able to do a real-time review of our surveillance system at High Prairie.
And at the request of the board, I did reach out to the insurance agent, Rex, about a possible reduction in your premium. And the answer would be no, because if you had an alarm system installed, there's a reduction. Or if you had the ability to some sort of alerting service from the video surveillance that would trigger something. It would trigger, you know, send a message to the police department. Otherwise, there'd be no reduction in the premium. So right now, you wouldn't get a reduction.
Well, you know, go ahead, Joe.
I just would like to put out just a slightly different view, and that is that if we went ahead and did it, that people would use the station more, and we would see that what an asset it was. You know, like if you build it, they will come. Just that type of view. I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, John, I concur with you. I think that's a true good statement.
Brian,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
cannot hear what she said. It went in and out.
Oh, Pam, that's you.
She's in and out.
Thanks, Joe.
I'll repeat it. I said that my view is to do it in advance of identifying all the uses of it. But once it's done, we will see that it's a benefit, and people will be able to use the station much more for any type of work that they have, because they will have that internet connection to make calls or to be up there and do some work on the computer while something else is happening. You know, if you need to be at the station for something else, I would be for doing it early, but I'm just putting that out. I said, if you build it, they will come.
I will tell you that I know that Rita, part of her plan with this deploying this remote learning capability is particularly at the Westford antenna on the school there doesn't really penetrate a lot of houses. So her thought is that perhaps kids would come park in the parking lot to hook up to the internet, which could be what happens at Dead Mountain.
Like it happened there, yeah. You know, another thought, even though this is down the list, what if one of our engines had a short circuit in it up there? We could burn all of the equipment up without anybody knowing it. And for example, I had installed in the Methodist Church an alarm system that monitors the church. And we've alerted we've had the fire department and police respond quickly whenever we have smoke. Now, we're totally unprotected up there, and if we had spectrum lines cut in, then we could monitor the condition of smoke up there. That I guess you could do it with the video. I'm not sure, but that's something that can be done. And then we we know since an unmanned station, we could lose a lot in one fell swoop. We would have our wire fire right in the building. So I guess my feeling is we ought to go ahead with this thing, maybe take a vote on it and install the line and then develop the system from there.
Well, John,
Silence.
to bring this to some kind of,
What'd you say?
to bring this to some kind of,
Oh, I would
John, to bring this to
make,
some kind of closure.
okay. I would make a motion that we go ahead with the connectivity with the system.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that. Baker,
I didn't hear it. I didn't hear the motion.
go with the spectrum.
Oh, the motion was to establish a spectrum line to the station at an estimated cost and the service of $76 a month with the phone.
Is that with the phone and the internet at 76?
Yes, it comes with the phone.
Okay.
Okay, is there additional discussion on the motion?
That's my motion.
Well, I'd like to
What was it?
just throw something out. You, Herb, you mentioned that we had a lot of other things to do and this was down on the list. So we don't have a list of those important things other than this list of action item list. So what are our expensive future costs that you could envision? I guess the High Prairie, expanding the station is one, but we don't have a timeline for that. And if we expanded the station, this would be something we might want to do ahead of time.
Joe, my concern is maybe of a perspective and scale. Hazeldell currently, I'm sure if we have any tiers. And if we do, it's like one or two ends a month without benefit of having any staffing to respond to it. It seems to me like maybe it's out of place, but I'm also not opposed if the board thinks this is a good deal. I can.
Well, let me comment on that. While we don't have volunteers in noise, that would go directly to the fire department and police department, and they could respond with the volunteers and department fire suppression teams that they have. So I think that would be a benefit in that light. Well,
Other comments,
call the question.
observations? Question's been called.
Pardon me?
We need to restate clearly what the motion is so we understand what we're voting on. So one more time, John, would you state clearly and concisely the motion that's on the floor?
The motion that's on the floor is that I make a motion that we contract with Spectrum to install fire and internet service connection to the High Prairie station.
Okay, and that's the
Is
understanding of the
that
person.
okay? I was going to ask Brian, is that consistent with what you've reported on today?
Yes, it'd be an internet and a single phone line connection.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, the question has been called. John, yea or nay?
Yay.
Yes.
Pam? Joan?
Yay.
Lose him again.
He's stuck.
Can anyone hear us here at the firehouse?
Skip?
Yay!
I could hear him.
You got a yes from Skip.
Hey, okay, so it's passed unanimously by the board. Pardon me? All right, that motion passed unanimously. Put that in the book. Did we do, or did you do the under the new business, the status of the audit?
Can we go back one just for me? Pick me on list. Second.
Brian or Eric, which just had you say, and Joan was talking about putting that file in the Hazeldell station. Is that correct, Joan?
Yes. It's already been put up there.
Yes, file cabinet's done.
File cabinet's up to the station. There's, how many of them? 2 or 3?
File cabinet? I
Yeah.
think we only put one up there recently.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought you said there's 2, but okay. That's fine. Okay, I don't have an opportunity to get up there right now. We're all locking up.
The connection's kind of going south here. Who can hear?
Just wanted to make
Okay.
sure it was done.
So we're now sure.
Yep.
Okay, moving on then, on the audit for 2019, 2020.
We already talked about that.
Okay, that's good. That's what I thought we had, but I didn't want to, sometimes I skip over things. So we're ready for the fire chief's update.
Okay, I'll be brief because the connection is not the best. For a COVID update, we're kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel on some of this. We had 6 firefighters that were tested positive for COVID. Of those 6, 4 are out of isolation, so they've gotten through it. The other 2 are coming out in the next few days. So it's of those 6, 3 of them were full-time firefighters and 3 were volunteers. Then you have another category, which is close contact. So when someone pops, you have to go back and sort of trace who was with them and who stood duty with them for an extended period of time. So of those close contacts, there were 5. All but 1 is out of quarantine in this case. So if you're positive, you're in isolation. If you're a close contact, you're in quarantine. So looks good. We're coming out the other end of it, unless we get some sort of a second wave. It was kind of slice and dice there for a while. I think Scott probably stood 5 straight days of duty, which we had to work with the union on because that's kind of beyond the scope of the contract. But God bless him, he took the bullet and stood the duty. So and there was a day to give him a break that we actually had just people-ready people here, the part-timers. But they were all very experienced. So thanks to your firefighters and paramedics that stood up. And the city actually had to fund one of the quarantine folks, one of the positive folks over at the Best Western, because she had a family at home she didn't want to infect. So, but that's neither here nor there. It's not a problem as far as the funding of it. So for activity reports, I included, I think these are in your packet before I updated it, but I've got for the last 3 weeks, starting from the 8th of November, which I don't think you saw in your last one. It's been relatively quiet for Hazeldell. We've had 0 that first week. You had 1 EMS transport the second week, and then nothing the third week. So quiet up there, but down here in Oak Ridge, it's been a little busy. A lot more COVID activity. Scott had to go on a call because there was a bad accident on 58. So he was going to give me the material status, but I will tell you that we've got studs on all 3 of the medic units. So those are operational, and that's unfortunately all I can tell you as far as the condition of the equipment. Any questions for me?
Brian, do we have resources, personnel to respond? If we had a fire, do we have somebody to respond?
Right now? Yes, sir. Yes.
And we have people to respond to the EMS issues?
Right. So we have kept our staffing at a minimum of 3, 1 full-time, 1 part-time, and 1 volunteer. And if the volunteer is available, we always ask for 2 volunteers, but at a minimum, we have 3 here. Even during the hard time, when we had a lot of people out, we had 3 in the firehouse. That allows a single call, first call, and then a possibility of a second call out, depending on what the first one's doing. In addition, I was in discussion with Lane County, with Dexter, and with Lowell, letting them know what our situation was so they would not be surprised if they got a mutual aid call or frequent mutual aid calls. So pretty good communications there. But yes, we would have been able to respond to fire and EMS calls.
Okay. It's
Oh, the ambulance.
You know, one of the questions that comes up, I heard through Facebook and through somebody telling me that Oak Ridge had 200 positive tests for COVID. I don't know whether that's true or not. And you look at the reports on TV, and they tell you what Lane County is having. And I don't know what we could do with that number, but you know, it emphasizes the need for caution on the part of the citizenry here. So, how many cases have we had? Do you all have an idea, Brian?
Yeah, the last I checked, which was this morning, their all-time cases are at 49 for postal code 97463. And I'm going to show you here where you can get to, so I'm on the Lane County website, and if you go down to view all data for Lane County, let me just share it first. You can't see a damn thing, can you?
Okay.
Hang on.
Yeah, I look at that.
So can you see it says Lane County, Oregon? Are you seeing that? Yeah, nothing right now.
They can't.
No, it's frozen.
The third box over
Are you seeing the web browser that I have up?
Yeah?
yeah.
Right, so
Yeah,
I'm hovering over one that says COVID-19 case visualizations with phone layouts, and so I'm going to hit that. And then you go up here to case map as soon as it loads.
Brian, let me thank you for this data, and then we need to know what's going on in the community.
Oh, 50.
Right. So
And we need to know more particularly how it affects our staffing and our ability to respond. But is there any dialogue amongst the chiefs to having a consolidated East Lane County Fire Department, EMS?
during this crisis, no, that what has happened in a couple of spots, I think over in Gresham, was loans of firefighters to make a department healthy if it was a long-term situation. Where and I did talk with Scott about it, and we were once he got the permission to use people-ready folks in a full-time capacity, we stopped really pursuing it, but that was the next step. If we didn't have that ability, we would have reached out to one of the other fire departments, probably Eugene Springfield, and asked for a loan of firefighters to make us healthy.
Yeah, with the trends, with the city's budget issues, and with, I guess, all of Eastland County's budget issues, that we need to be looking at some form of, I don't know, going to more of a paid system where we don't have enough volunteers. On the other hand, we don't have enough money to pay anybody. But the trend does not look healthy in terms of rural fire districts, and certainly in volunteerism. And I don't know, I'm just curious if you're thinking, and the other chiefs are thinking, about how we could adapt or modify, or whatever the right term would be, our resource pool, so that we could meet the needs of all of the districts, and be maybe more effective and efficient in the use of our money.
I believe that discussion is going to go there when we start talking about ambulance service and alternative options for Oak Ridge to source that. You know, in my mind, it really is, you know, it's a Lane County responsibility to do that, to provide that service, and they outsource it. So I think you're going to see that come up as we approach Lane County with and show them our sort of our quandary that we're in. So I think it's going to lead that way. I don't know whether it's going to include fire or not, because interestingly, the communities are very protective of their rice bowls when it comes to fire departments and rural fire districts. So
That's right. You know, we do have the mutual aid program in effect, and we've been covered by Dexter and Pleasant Hill on a number of occasions. So, but when the bucket is almost empty, it's kind of tough to do what you're talking about, Bert. I think we need to work on our government and fund this sort of thing, because we're not going to be able to respond. Not only us, but a lot of districts are just going to have a problem. They don't have enough money either. Well, I think our guys are doing a great job. Other than that, you know, they working pretty hard and trying to provide some good leadership for them. That's been very helpful.
Brian, do you have any more of the chief's report?
no, that's all, unless there's questions.
Have a good night, John.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye to Joan and to Skip.
We sign off here? Do we adjourn?
Yeah,
We adjourn.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice
This is a-
reporting, Joan. I think you did a magnificent job pulling all those reports together.
Well, thank you for the action item list.
And I thought Brian did a nice job with the agenda, and the director's packet had all of the relevant stuff for the meeting in it, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
that's great.
Okay.
Have a good
Now,
night.
if I knew how to turn this thing off, I would.
Stay well.
Call you
Stay
what?
well, everybody.